What if the life you're living now is just the echo of a self you were forced to bury long ago? If you're ready to stop echoing and start living, subscribe and join us. This is the moment your soul has been waiting for. There's a truth your body has known for years, a silent hum beneath your daily thoughts. Your very presence here, in this quiet space, is the first real sign the part of you that survived is finally ready to live. This isn't about a single moment of change. It begins with a slow, quiet tremor in your foundation, a signal from a depth you've long ignored. Tonight, we go beyond simple psychology. We trace the ancient story written into your very being, the one that started the first time the world asked you to be smaller, quieter, less than you were. What we call survival mode is not a chapter. It is an entire world, a cramped psychic landscape where you forgot the original blueprint of your soul. For those who feel deeply, this state doesn't begin in adulthood. Its roots are pre-verbal, planted in atmospheres where love felt conditional and silence felt heavy. You learn to survive not through expansion, but through careful, meticulous reduction. Your nervous system became a precision instrument, endlessly scanning for shifts in mood, for unspoken demands, for threat in a sigh. This profound attunement, what you might call your empathy, was forged first as a tool for preservation. It gifted you rare perception, but the cost was the spontaneous flow of your own unfiltered existence. A person anchored in this state is like an artist painting only in the colors someone else chose. They breathe, but not fully. They love, but with a hidden hesitation. They exist in a permanent brace position long after the turbulence has ended. Even in calm, the body remembers the storm, and within it, a version of you that never got to simply be. Reclaiming what was surrendered isn't an attack on the outside world. It is the sacred, inner work of coming home to yourself. It's the decision to listen inward with such sincerity that the parts you locked away begin, at last, to speak their native tongue, a language of symbols, dreams, and emotions that rise from a deeper sea. Many who feel deeply describe a sensation of multiple lives packed into one. This is true. Your psyche is a layered history. Survival mode compresses these layers, cutting off their vital dialogue. Your energy is siphoned into constant vigilance, leaving you as the guarded door, not the inhabitant of the house. But the house itself was never lost. It was sealed. Imagine a sunken temple within your soul, its grand halls dark and still. For safety, you were taught to keep its doors shut. Yet inside, everything you were meant to be, your instinct, creativity, inherent worth, waits, preserved. Your task is not to build from scratch, but to remember what is eternally yours. One dream, shared by many walking this path, walking a grey, lifeless plane under a weighted sky. Then, spotting a hatch in the earth, nearly overgrown. Opening it reveals a stairway down into a chamber of radiant, warm light. There, a younger self stands waiting, holding everything you put aside. This is the map. The barren field is the surface life, shaped by survival. The hatch is the overlooked passage inward. The descent is the journey. The radiant chamber is your essence, protected by your own inner wisdom. The waiting child is the potential paused, not destroyed. Your psyche didn't fail you. It safeguarded your core until you were strong enough to hold it. Why now? You might ask, awakening isn't a race. It is a timing set by the soul's own readiness. A seed knows when to crack the soil. That crack isn't breaking. It is the start of becoming. You may feel it now, the old vigilance feeling obsolete. Relationships built on your silence feel unstable. Your body is tired of carrying ghosts. Dreams are more vivid. This is no accident. It is your inner world sending up its long-held symbols. Survival mode required a divorce from your instincts. Awakening is the reunion. Let's go deeper. The archetype running this old program is the wounded inner child who learned that softness was unsafe. This child keeps you scanning the horizon. But beneath that child is another figure, the inner guardian. This is your fierce protectiveness, your resilience. It has held you together. And beneath them both rests the self, your totality, your purpose, your instinctive wisdom. As survival mode loosens, the self sends signals: restlessness, deep grief, a clear knowing that your current life is too small for your soul. These emotional waves are not chaos. They are realignment. Your unconscious is rearranging itself, making room. We must pause on grief. It is the underestimated key. You aren't just grieving people or events. You grieve the selves you had to hide, the words unspoken, the light dimmed to avoid blinding others. This grief is not the end. It is the necessary descent before any true ascent. You reclaim your life only after honoring what was taken. Survival mode doesn't end by force. It dissolves when the psyche feels safe enough to expand. And this safety is built from inner integration. When you acknowledge your shadow, speak your truth, and stop confusing self-sacrifice for love, then space opens within. It may feel foreign, even frightening. A life lived in contraction must relearn the feeling of expansion. We often mistake intuition for reading others. True intuition is born from inner clarity. Moving out of survival mode, you stop sensing danger and start sensing direction. Dreams clarify. Insights land with certainty. The inner voice grows steady. This reclamation begins not with a shout, but with a quiet, irrevocable decision. I will no longer abandon myself. That declaration changes everything from the inside out. You feel it first as a subtle unclenching in the chest, a reclaiming of breath. It's not yet confidence. It's recognition. Recognition that you are more than the role, the healer, the absorber, the peacekeeper. Your sensitivity was never meant to be a shield. It was meant to be a guide. But a guide cannot function if it's buried under fear. Survival mode trains your gaze outward. The authentic life begins when your attention shifts decisively inward. When the whispers of your soul outweigh the noise of the world, you see the story you've been living was authored by adaptation, not by essence. This shift brings potent dreams. Many describe walking a twilight forest drawn toward a distant, warm light. Blocking the path is a shadowy figure. This figure is not an enemy. It is the part of you that protected you by locking away your own power, your assertiveness, your boundaries, your righteous anger. For the sensitive soul, these traits were often exiled as unlovable. The shadow guardian stands to ask one question. Are you ready to carry what you once left behind? Your answer opens the path. Awakening requires welcoming back every exiled piece. The anger you might now feel is not destructive. It is directional. It points to where you abandoned yourself. Honoring its intelligence is to reclaim your power, not power over others, but alignment with your own truth. This alignment is disruptive. When you stop living for others' comfort, the old world fractures. Some relationships will change. Those drawn to your wounds may retreat from your clarity. Awakening is often accompanied by loss, the loss of what was never truly yours. As you rise, your energy shifts. You no longer participate in chaos or rescue those refusing their own healing. You stop performing and start being. Your true connections emerge. Another common dream: living in a mansion, but confining yourself to one small, dark room. The other rooms, your joy, ambition, creativity, sacred solitude, are locked. Reclamation is those doors clicking open. You feel pulled to new colors, old music, deep silence. This expansion can feel disorienting because survival taught you that aliveness was risky. But aliveness is your birthright. Another symbol, a river. You've stood on the bank for years, fearing the current. The river is not chaos, it is the flow of your destiny. Stepping in is an act of trust. You may feel you are losing your identity. You are shedding the identity made by trauma and returning to the one made by truth. Destiny here is not a predetermined fate, but a psychological necessity, your soul's unique pattern. Survival mode froze that unfolding. The psyche doesn't forget, it waits. Often, through collapse or exhaustion, it initiates a recall. The life you were meant to live begins to knock from the inside. This transition is not gentle. It dismantles the false self. What crumbles is the persona, the armor. In its place, the true self emerges. This is holy ground. It is the moment you shape yourself to your becoming, not your wounds. The universe expands through you when you dare to do the same. What follows is integration, the slow weaving of all exiled pieces back into the whole. This is where the inner teacher emerges, a knowing in your spine. It guides you toward experiences that reclaim your power. A crucial shift happens here, the reclamation of boundaries. They are not walls, but living membranes. In survival, they were porous, you absorbed everything. Now, you learn to honor the somatic signals, the chest tightness, the stomach heaviness that say, "This is not mine to carry." As boundaries firm, identity expands past the old roles. You sense the raw presence beneath, your true self. This is sovereignty. It frightens those conditioned to your smallness. Your energy migrates. The compulsion to rescue fades. This is awakening by subtraction. You shed the stories and contracts you never agreed to. Instinct, long doubted, returns with force. You perceive truth before it's spoken. This is the real gift, not absorbing emotions, but perceiving reality. And with this comes a purifying grief for the years spent shrinking. Allow this grief. It becomes a river that washes away the old, creating sacred space within. This space is where rebirth happens. You may dream of dawn breaking or of finding a buried key. These are symbols of consciousness returning, resources reclaimed. Dreams of powerful animals, a wolf, an owl, signal the return of instinctual force. You become grounded, embodied. You reclaim your body, and thus your presence. And presence is power. At this point, others can no longer project their chaos onto you. Your being becomes a boundary. You step into a creative phase. You are no longer surviving or healing. You are building a life that mirrors your soul. You understand then, The life you thought was lost was only waiting. It was preserved within, untouched. As you step into this, you feel inner congruence, a harmony between thought, feeling, and action. The civil war within ends. Returning home is not an event. It is a lifelong recognition. The archetype of the inner healer now guides your integration with precision. You are led by an intelligence larger than your fear. You see your past as a forge, every scar an initiation. You discover your mythic identity. The sensitive person is not weak, they are the seer, the bridge between worlds. Survival mode hid this behind a mask. Awakening removes it. A culminating dream for many approaching an ancient temple, pushing open a giant door to a flood of golden light. A figure inside speaks, "You are not returning to your past, you are returning to your origin. Your origin is the self. Destiny is alignment. It orchestrates synchronicities, reveals latent gifts, and shows the sacredness of your sensitivity. What was a burden becomes your compass." One final acte. Forgive yourself for the abandonment. Forgive the child who didn't know how, the adult who tolerated too much. You are surviving. That is not a flaw. It is a testament to a spirit that would not go out. Now, the protection of contraction is no longer needed. You can expand. Make choices from truth, not fear. From resonance, not guilt. Let's return to the sunken temple. The doors are now open. You walk in not as a stranger, but as someone remembering. At its center sits the life you surrendered piece by piece. Now, consciously, you reclaim it piece by piece. You do not go back to who you were. You become who you were always meant to be, intuitive and rooted, compassionate and boundaried, soft and unshakable. You live the mythic story of the self. The world feels different not because it changed, but because you have. You have reclaimed the life that was yours all along. And now, finally, it begins. If this resonated, please like this video. It tells the algorithm to share this with others who need to hear it. And of course, subscribe to Winds of Thought for more journeys inward.